So that,
I would tell him,
Just so that it's
going.
going,
This is
whenever
just
you
for our,
want.
for
It's
the
great.
fans. Well, Robert, welcome back to Reed's.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, and
Glad to be back.
congratulations on this book, and to everybody out there in TV land. I can honestly say this book took me 2 nights to read. It was just riveting, and it's just, I enjoyed your first book, which I'm still pitching, The Education of a Lifetime, but this is 99% different material from that one, and it's just terrific. And particularly, I was 9 years old in 1960, but of course my heroes were the Ole Miss football players, and I remember in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, we could get in free to some of the games that weren't the big SEC games if we would go agree to usher. Why people would want a 10-year-old ushering them to the seat. We were in our uniform, they got us in free, and we would get to see games like Hardin Simmons or the University of Chattanooga Moxons, who are better now than they were back then in your day.
That's true.
But anyway, and I remember, we would have to sit at the top of the stadium on the away from the press book side. That's where our pack could sit.
Sure.
But I just have fond memories of watching, you and your teammates through those glory years, and then to put all that in the context of the politics of the time, the race, and then your own personal experiences. And the book opens and closes with your Pro Bowl game experience, and I had no idea how close you came to not being here for the rest of your life about that, but maybe just start with that a little bit, as far as you're working on the book, how you decided to work that in, and just your whole, the way you worked, again, the context of everything that was happening nationally in Mississippi and at Ole Miss, of course, starting, and one other thing I want to say before I say anything else is, so poignant about your parents, your comments about your mama,
Thank you.
and then, I guess since the Greeks, the father-son relationship has just been, seminal for all of us. But your dad, what a multifaceted person, what a really good man in his life, so many ways. So anyway, but
Well,
thank you for writing it. And then, how did you decide to kick it off with that Pro Bowl appearance?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me today at Reach, and thank you all for being here. You're really generous to spend some time doing this. It's highly complimented that you and anybody else would read the book, but the short answer, or maybe the long answer to the book, is Neil White sitting back there in the second row, because it wouldn't be written without Neil. I did, he told me to write, and I did. And I wrote for 3 years, and so you read it in 2 days, it took me 3 years. So I'm teasing you about that.
Yeah.
People tell me usually it takes a weekend or something. That's okay with me. I just want, if they want to read it, I want them to enjoy it,
Yeah.
But Neil was critical to this process, and if you notice, there's a subtext.
Yeah.
It's 60, that's my jersey number in 1960. That's how that number happens to be.
That was clever.
But he says a year of sports, race, and politics, or we say that. And some of us lived through that, Neil, you did. And it went on around us, and we didn't know much about it. For example, the race part. I had a question this morning about the Biloxi Beach demonstrations that the doctor and his compadres held in Biloxi, and we didn't even think about it. Most people don't even know what happened.
I didn't know about it until I read this
No,
book.
no,
Up here in
and-
Northeast Mississippi, we didn't hear about it.
Of course, Neil very wisely has that photograph in there of the trash receptacles to say property of Biloxi. Well, it's public property. Why shouldn't the doctor and his friends be able to go on that beach, and why shouldn't the rest of us be helping him?
Yeah.
And my family was always supportive of people. I mean, my daddy and mother both were kind to everybody, and taught us to teach people with respect, and we did. But we didn't get out front on the sit-ins or marches or any of that was going on. And I don't know I don't really feel guilty about it, because we were good friends with our black friends, and the kids in the neighborhoods played a lot of sandlot of everything, white or black. Not many women were playing sports then,
Yeah.
basketball, some, but not just generally. And so I don't feel guilty about it, but I regret that somebody didn't light a fire. We could have gotten that done a lot better probably. And it's taken a long time, and we still be deep.
Well, you lit a fire under those sticks for the rebel flags that,
Yeah. You know, I'm physical about that. Now, when I went to we had tried 3 times to get a chapter of Phi Beta Kappa. We've been turned down every year, and I knew that wasn't right. I knew Ole Miss qualified. I knew some other schools who had it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I called the man who's the executive director of Phi Beta Kappa, and I go to Washington. I always went and ask. When I don't know something, I go kind of like Mr. Jones. I ask him about C12, H22, what is that? So anyway, so I go up to see him. He said, well, I'm just surprised you don't have a chapter. I said, that's why I'm here. I said, we need a chapter. What do we need to do? And so he started rolling off library, faculty salaries, strengthening the liberal arts community, get rid of the Confederate flag. I thought, oh, yeah. That's really what I thought. I don't know what that's gonna mean, but it's not gonna be, I don't have the idea what it's gonna mean, but yes, we will get rid of the flag. So I go back home, and the young woman, Jeannie Dodson, from the editor of the Mississippi, is sharp looking, and she comes up to me after a meeting, and there's a crowd. She says, I see where you're having an image survey. And I said, yeah, we are. I said, from between 91 and 95, we lost 1,000 students, and our funding depends on a strong enrollment. We can't plan if we don't know. So I said, so we're gonna have an email. I'm gonna find out what people are thinking about Ole Miss. So we hired a New York firm who happened to be led by an Ole Miss graduate, Harold Burson, and they surveyed the southeastern United States and tried to find out what the images of Ole Miss were in those states. And they came back and said, well, first of all, I don't think about it very much. That's the first thing you all understand. I said, well, I do get that.
Yeah.
He said, but I gotta tell you, that Confederate flag creates a racist image. And there are people who resent it. A lot of people, white and black.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do we do about it? He said, well, you have to find a way to get rid of it. So I say to Jeannie Dodson, she says, is the flag gonna be part of the survey? I said, well, I think everything's open for the survey. I mean, you know, I'm magnanimous and generous, I'm ready to get it done. I don't have any idea what the potential is. And so that night, the headline in the Mississippian says, Confederate flag under review. Well, that was like opening up the floodgates. And it was every day for 9 months. I mean, every day, and there were people marching and hanging me in effigy, and I was a rat and so forth. I had friends who wouldn't speak and got mad at me. I kept telling them it was okay. So anyway, we dealt with it and got together, and at the end of 9 months, we were able to come up with this solution, we thought, of not allowing sticks in the stadium and not allowing umbrellas in the stadium because they're dangerous, and they were dangerous. But that was the way we did it.
Yeah, I know. They're creative.
Yeah, well, it had to be
It had to be done.
And people, you know, a lot of people still are not happy about it, and I understand it, and I love them to death. And I'll tell you one little kind of cute story that came out of that flag. We were rocking along about a month or 2 into it, and I get this box in the mail from a lawyer I knew down in Starkville, who's an Ole Miss state undergraduate, Ole Miss law graduate. He sends me a box of women's underwear. It's pink satin underwear. I mean, every part that a woman would wear. And of course, I didn't have the idea what women wore, but he sent everything. So I wrote him a letter. His name is John, first name. I did John and said, thank you for caring about Ole Miss and for sending me this wonderful clothing that you sent. I'm really glad to have it. I'm really, really happy about your concern about our university. And he called me a worm and every bad name, you know, sure. That's okay. So anyway, I wrote that and sent it back to him. I told my assistant, I said, no, we're gonna put this underwear right over in that corner. If we ever get through this, I'm sending it back to him. So anyway, we fought for 9 months, and every day. So at the end of the 9 months, when it was over, I got that box off, got a corner, I wrapped it up, had her wrap it up. I wrote him, dear John, I've been trying this quote for 9 months. It doesn't fit me. I hope it will fit you. Thank you for caring about Ole Miss. Come to see us.
Yeah.
Your friend, Robert. I didn't hear from him again after.
Well, it's,
That was kind of fun.
anyway, you know, that was one of the first chinks in the armor for getting rid of the flag in the corner of the flag, the Mississippi
Well,
flag
you know,
too.
your daddy, he did
Yeah.
a lot on that. I did a little bit on that too, but
Yeah.
I sort of, got, what would you say, marked. I became a marked
Yeah,
man after
I
the
know.
Confederate flag.
Well, we had, when Dad, you were talking about 2001, when Dad and William Winter led the,
Yeah.
Ronnie Musgrove asked them to lead that, and they got, beat about 66 to 33% in the
Yeah.
statewide. Only took 19 more years finally, but, you know, honestly, the universities again stepped up. That Mississippi State's great running back, you know, Kyrie Hill said, all right, I'm not gonna play under it anymore, and then we had all the coaches from the three major universities, basketball, football, and baseball, all go down to the Capitol and speak about it. Of course, Ole Miss and State had already taken it, weren't
Yeah.
flying it at the universities
Yeah.
anymore. Southern maybe not either. And it just took a lot of the MEC. I worked on the Mississippi Economic Council part of it. I was the chairman of our committee that was raising money to help finance that campaign. And I think one of the ideas that we had certainly made a difference was insisting on "In God We Trust" on the new one. So people could say, well, you know, why do you want this current flag? It doesn't even have "In God We Trust" on it. You know, we need, you know, and so you try to have, that was a hard argument for people to
That was smart.
stand a bit. So that, you know, that was kind of like the sticks. So
Yeah.
the other thing was just part of trying to make people somewhat amenable to it. But anyway, but that was part of this whole change, and it is an image thing. The Mississippi Economic Council did all these surveys too. Nationally, why were you not located in Mississippi International?
Yeah.
There was an international firm that was gonna either be in Tupelo or Little Rock, and it was gonna have about 1,200 jobs. It was a big company. And they wrote back and said, we're not gonna be in a state that has the rebel flag in the corner of the flag, you know, so that was 1,200 jobs right here in Tupelo that cost. So that's good in that passed. Well, all right, so back to your book and your time, I guess on race a little bit, I was interested in the history about that the first Sugar Bowl actually was 1957, had a black player in it, but that was so terrible that was the reason ultimately that y'all couldn't play Syracuse to decide a real national champion.
That's right.
You talk about that a little bit.
Well, that really had come up at Ole Miss and at Mississippi State. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
3 or 4 years
basketball.
later, then
State.
Babe McCarthy
Yeah.
took that state basketball team
Sneaked
to
out.
an integrated tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ole Miss had played in basketball, had been in a tournament up in Kentucky in '57. And one of
Iona, is that right?
Iona College had a black player. And so Coach Graham had to announce to his team they couldn't play in the tournament. And we withdrew from the tournament and forfeited the game. And then the next 2 years, our baseball team won the SEC championship. We beat Georgia Tech 1 year, and then we beat Florida the next year. And the second year, we won 23 and lost 2.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good team.
You had a great team.
And Jake Gibbs was third base, and he
Yeah.
could really play.
Yeah.
So anyway, we.
Well, and you hit a grand slam home run
I
in
did.
that
I did.
big
Nice.
game. That's in there.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well, it's nice if you know you're doing it. I didn't know his faces were loaded. That's it.
Well, that's
Frank
what-
Albert.
no stress.
Frank Albert, I'm gonna put my shin guard back on, and Frank Albert comes over. He said, well, you just have to show you know what, don't you? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you have to hit a grand slam. You can't just hit a home run. I said, a grand slam?
Yeah.
I didn't know if but I went back to the stadium 3 years ago with my grandson. It's just exactly the way it was when we played there in '59.
Yeah,
That's
isn't
the
that
great-
one from show a grandson?
Yeah.
This is where your grandfather hit a grand slam home run over the left
Yeah,
field.
that didn't impress me very much.
It impressed me. Anyway, but anyway, you're talking about the kind of the progression of how y'all ended up not being able to play for the
Yeah.
football. Yeah, of course, baseball now. Baseball is such a big thing at State and Ole Miss. Now, I mean, God, they give their left arm to be able to go to win a college
Yeah.
World Series, and that team could have been the first one, and
Could have
Mississippi
been.
did if they
Could have
let
been.
you go to online play.
Yeah, but it was a big disappointment for us,
Yeah.
but we just took it and went on about our
Yeah.
business.
But then Syracuse, the reason they went to Cotton Bowl because y'all wouldn't
We
play
couldn't
them
go.
in the Sugar
Yeah.
Bowl, right?
That's what Charlie Flowers thought, and we thought Charlie Flowers knew everything. You
Yeah.
know. He was a year older than we were.
Yeah, well, he was certainly
He
a
was
great
19,
athlete.
we were 18.
Well, he was a great player too. I know a great friend, lifelong friend of yours.
Yeah, Charlie was he was the leader of the 59 team, which is a pretty remarkable team, but you talk about playing Arden Simmons
Yeah.
and Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Coach Vaught, when Warner Alford became director of athletics, Coach Vaught said, "Now, Warner, one of your jobs is to schedule football games. And I'm gonna tell you how you schedule to win." So that's why we played
Yeah,
Chattanooga.
Yeah, well, y'all also beat Georgia and LSU
Well, we
and
did.
Vanderbilt and those teams as
Yeah,
well.
we did fine. We lost LSU on Billy County.
The Halloween game, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so, back to, a little bit more of the pro, career, again, I just seeing that picture of Bob St. Clair, 6'9", 265
Yeah,
pounds.
6'10",
6'10",
yeah.
plus
My dad
his
said he
cleats.
could pull an inch, 6'10". He was
Did
good
he-
looking. He was a really nice looking man and smart.
Did he ever know the repercussions of that
No,
hit?
I didn't know it at the time. In fact, it was determined by the Redskin doctor after I'd been in the Vicksburg hospital and out finally, and went up there for a physical before 61, and they told me I couldn't play because I had.
For the purposes of the people watching on the TV, to go over that play and just how all that transpired.
And I'm assuming they still do this, but when we played, when you kicked off, the receiving team formed a wedge, and they just put their biggest guy in the middle of the wedge, and then two more, and they moved forward. They just kind of cleaned the path for the back.
Yeah.
Who's running the ball, and so I kicked off, and I'm hustling down the field, and I see that wedge forming, and I get distracted to see what's happening. And Bob St. Clair is the big guy, and he's in the middle of the wedge. And he hits me with his helmet. In fact, they know where he hit my helmet, he hit me right here, right over my pancreas.
Targeting your pancreas.
Yeah, and nowadays, you get your helmets, you get out of the game. Anyway, he nailed me, and I was on the floor of the Coliseum, and kind of curious about being there anyhow, and I was disoriented. So we were taught day one, nobody calls a timeout except the coach or the quarterback. And so if you get hurt, you figure out a way to get off the field. And so I'm going like this. I'm at the Coliseum, I'm crawling off the field.
Yeah.
And I got off the field, but I recovered from that. I went back to Ole Miss, I went to class for 3 weeks, went to Vicksburg to teach school. About the second week I was there, I wake up one morning and my stomach is burning. I mean, just like on fire. So I thought I had indigestion. I go in and get bathed and dressed and go to school, and I can't go in the classroom. I go back out in the yard and I have indigestion. And anyway, I go back to where I was living, and Coach Hovey's, one of our coaches, his brother ran the YMCA in Vicksburg. That's where the single teachers live.
Yeah.
And so I go down and see Mr. Ernest Hovis, and I ask him if he knows the doctor I can go see. And he says he does. He'll take me. So he takes me to the Mercy Hospital, which is a really good hospital. And the street clinic was a medical group who represented. And so I saw Dr. Herman Kellen, who was a really well-known and highly respected surgeon. And he couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, so he did an exploratory and cut from here to here. And as you said, they didn't do surgery on pancreatitis, and so there I am with my pancreas, about the size of your tennis shoe and as red as your socks. I might add,
These are Christmas socks, by the way, I'll show you.
Where'd you go?
Anyway, so he did this big surgery, and he immediately knew that we were in deep water because I wasn't gonna heal. So I think it was 84, 85 days later, I'm still there. And I've lost a lot of weight.
You said you're down to 168?
Yeah, I went from 230 to 165, 168, something like that. My sweet mama came to Vicksburg that day that they did the surgery and sat in a recliner for it was nearly 4 months. And they nursed me through that, and I was able to go home, but it took 3 more months to recover from that time in the hospital. And so I didn't play my second year. I put it back and tried to play the third and fourth years. I did play, but I never got back,
Gotta
really.
get your strength back.
No, I lost my center and my holder. They got traded while I was sick. And the center and the holder is so critical.
I'm glad you said, I want everybody to hear this because you were looking over here on this side, you're looking at the junior and senior year holders for Tupelo High School football team. And I think this is the first time I've ever, even by a long shot, gotten any credit for that. And the one thing that disappointed me, Robert, is that every year we practiced the fake field goal,
Yeah.
and I would get down, but I wouldn't let my knee touch. I would just get it just above, so I wouldn't be down. Then I would, reverse out and throw this touchdown pass.
Certainly.
They never called it. I practiced it for 2 years.
I know.
Never.
I tried to get him to run that as the Redskins. I tried to throw me the ball, let him throw the
Like,
thing.
yeah.
I said, I was a quarterback at Ball's Point. I know I can throw the
Yeah.
ball in Yankee Stadium, for God's sake.
They wouldn't do it. The other thing.
Let me say that, I want to say that about that, because, the kicker is lauded and praised
Yeah.
if he makes a kick. He's booed and really in trouble if he misses it. But the truth is, he's only like a third of that operation, really a fourth. The line has to protect the
Right.
thing. The center has to do a good snap, throw a good snap back there. 1.2 seconds, it's got to be down.
Yeah.
You got to kick it.
Yeah.
And so the line, the center, the holder, and the kicker,
Yeah.
they're all in it together.
Yeah.
And so if you see a kicker who's doing really well, he's got a good center and a good holder. If you watch the kicks on TV, you can see where the lace is. And I know Neil is a golfer. And if you get a ball in front of a kicker and the lace is over here on the right, lace is over here, that ball is going to do like a curveball. If you got it on the other side, it's going to do like a what do you call it when you
Hook,
slice?
slice.
It's going to be a slice. And that's just the way it is. And so when I played the Pro Bowl, Ray Whitehecker was the center, and he's the center for the Giants. And Pat Summerall had been their kicker.
Yeah.
And Pat had told me that Charlie Conley was the best holder in football, and that Ray Whitehecker was the best center. Well, Charlie wasn't in that Pro Bowl. That year he was 42 or 43, so he didn't go. But Ray was there, and Ray showed me how to snap the ball 6.5 yards and have the lace facing the goalpost. Well, that's what you really want.
Yeah. So the holder doesn't have to turn it around.
That's right. People think that's baloney, that's malarkey coming from some old failed kicker, but it really doesn't work.
No, I appreciate that as an experienced holder. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're experienced.
that. Not my other kind of practice thing that was kind of funny was I would catch the punts for our punt coverage team to practice. I was back there with our defensive backfield coach, and of course we had the second team blocking the first team coming down at me, and every time they punt, this is the second time, Coach Purvis says, "Jack, we're not gonna be able to practice tackling if you keep doing fair catching." I said, "Coach Purvis, hell," I said, "these guys are killing that. They can kill me if I was trying to run the ball." I said, "You find somebody else who wants to run it, I'll be down here. I can catch it." But anyway, I also told after the spring of my senior year, I was a backup quarterback my junior year in high school. I wanted to be a starter like you were, but the coach had other ideas, and so the spring I went to offensive coordinator. I said, "Coach Dennis Wade, you might have known Dennis." I said, "Dennis, play me or trade me," which didn't happen a lot in high school, but Morville and Saltillo weren't that big at that time. But I got switched to split ends, so I could get to play.
Yeah,
But,
one thing I would say to you about the pancreatitis.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Okay, when you have a pancreas problem, you don't heal, and that's true with diabetic.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Dr. Kellum opened me up, he did it from can to can. I got a scar like that long down my belly.
Wow.
Ended up having to have surgery, and they put some mesh. So it's about that wide, about that long. So anyway, I'm down in Pascagoula in the spring of '62, and I'm helping Eddie Langford coach the football team, and I'm not wearing a shirt at practice because I want to get some tan over that scar, okay? I'm vain enough to want to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm out there, and this little boy who had a cleft palate, and they named him Nunu. And Nunu was the cutest little guy you ever saw, and he was a manager, tiny little fellow. He came over to me one day at practice, and he looked at my wound, as they call it in Vicksburg, and he says, "Mr. Khayat," he said, "can I rub that?" I said, "Yeah, Nunu, you can rub it." So he just figured, what, he goes, close it right down.
He was impressed.
That's a
Man, you could
classic
be opened
moment,
up.
yeah, it was a classic
You
moment.
could be, well, a little bit, see, you talked about growing up in Moss Point, of course, you had sweet memories of that. Your mama and that tree, you had kind of
Oh, yeah.
talked about that. I remember you talking about her before, but, yeah, and of course, before Eli and Peyton, there were the Khayat brothers who were also
Yeah, we were.
both in the pros
You
at
know,
the
in
same
60,
time.
in 60, we were the only two brothers in football, pro football.
Yeah, wow.
In the NFL. I don't know about the AFL.
And that's from a parent, your mother wasn't even 5 feet tall, was she?
She was probably 5'4".
Oh, was she? Little
She
baby
was
just
tiny.
compared to y'all. She was, I
My
know she was
daddy was
short.
not but 5'9".
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, for two parents that were both under 5'10", to have two
Yeah.
boys that were in the
Eddie-
NFL.
Eddie's really big, and Eddie set out to be bigger. First year he played, he weighed like 210 pounds in the NFL, and then he became bigger, eating peanut butter and bananas.
Yeah. Well, how did what was your childhood like in Moss Point
It was,
before you went to Ole Miss?
if you read any Huck Finn, a lot like Huckleberry Finn and a little bit like Tom Sawyer,
Yeah.
but it was rural, very rural. We had 2 paved streets, 2 east-west streets, and the rest of them were little dirt roads. And the black folks and the white folks didn't really live, had some integration, but mostly next to each other. And the kids all played together, black and white, until we got to be teenagers. And some of the adults didn't like it, they would play with black kids. So they fussed about it, so our daddy told us, we couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And how did you choose Ole Miss, or how did they choose you?
Well, I chose Ole Miss because my 10th grade coach was a man named Dixie Howell, Earl Octo Dixie Howell, number 31, who was on the SEC championship team in '47. He came down to coach our team, and he was just a born leader. I mean, we all fell in love with him immediately. Our performance went from 1 win to like 6 wins the first year. And then he got into a fuss with the superintendent, they sent him away. So we went back to 1 win.
Coaches can make a difference.
Oh, man,
Coaches
yeah,
can make a difference.
Yeah, they can.
Well, Robert, this book, again, I just enjoyed it so much. I really recommend it to everybody. And we were talking a little bit about maybe what's next, and you were telling me before we got on the air that you and Neil had talked maybe about a book on leadership.
Maybe so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
When I was, I'm sure you'll remember this, but when I was elected, but before I served as mayor, I thought I would talk to 1 or 2 people who I respected as far as what a good leader looks like, acts like, and you were kind enough, we had lunch, I went over to visit with you, and because of my respect just for your leadership qualities and traits, and the courage to take on things and follow through with them. And I remember one of the things you told me, which I have tried to adopt, was let people have your time to listen to them. If you'll just, whether you agree with them or not at the end of the conversation, just let the steam out of the kettle and let them listen to you. And I think that's certainly one of the traits that you've exhibited too. But are you, just before we close, any thoughts on what might be coming up? What are you thinking about leadership?
Well,
I'd love to read it.
Well, I hope we'll produce something that'd be worth reading. There's just a world of great leadership books out there.
Yeah.
The one I read last week is written by David Boren, who was senator from Oklahoma, and ultimately the president of the University of Oklahoma. He wrote a book called A Conversation with America. And he's got like 5 major subjects. It's not a big book, a little bitty book. And it's things that we're dealing with right this minute.
Yeah.
This was written in 2008, and now it's 2021, and those issues are still out there. And they are immigration, and they are integrity and honesty in leadership, government and private. They are respect. Just the values that I think most of us embrace are the values he lays out in this little book. But you could take that, I could take that table of contents and just write it from that. But other things I read, one of the things I read, it made such an impression on me, because this is how I felt about what I was doing. I felt I think anybody who's honest has got to feel some sense of awe when you find yourself as mayor of Tupelo or as a chancellor of the university or any other leadership position, because we're people and we're flawed, and we have some strengths and some weaknesses, and we make mistakes and so forth. And people watch, and they should, and they comment, and they should. But you have to be, one of the things that I thought when I was chancellor is, one of the items I have going for me is I really do love this place. I mean, I love this. This is as much me as my family is me. So I know what's here and I know what needs to be worked on and so forth. So I think loving the organization is really important. I think listening to the people in the organization. Third is getting people to work with you who are either certainly as good as you would be if you did it, but maybe better than you would do it, and then let them do it and give them credit. I mean, people like to be recognized. And you don't have to have big dinner parties and all that. You just take the time to say, thank you, Jack, for, you know. So anyway, and then my family was big on respect. I said that, honesty and integrity. I think in our world today, in this country, we've got to bring some sort of balance back to the public discourse. We've got to quit fussing all the time about everything, whether it's the media or elected officials or private, it doesn't matter. We've got to find some common ground and quit being in such contrarian moods all the time. It seems to me, that's what I like.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, one of the point I probably ought to mention, y'all know this already, but people say, my Lord, why are they saving 11 million or what, Kiffin now 8 million or something? Why y'all think they do? Why do we do that? Got any idea? Why do we pay a football coach $8 million to coach 12 games?
Generates the economy.
Generates the economy. Do we pay, what's the biggest industry in Tupelo? Toyota. Do we pay that person 12 million or 8 million? No. Why would we do that? I mean, that's a curiosity.
Yeah.
Fair question. I think it's because it's what we value. We value celebrity. We pay movie stars and singers and successful business people. We pay athletics, brother. We will pay athletics. I mean, I don't know how they're going to keep up with the salaries. My guy's making $120 million for 14 football games or 16. Anyway, I think it's worth thinking about why we, and I think it's our value system. So every one of us, I would hope, I've done this, sit down and write the values that you matter most to you, the respect. And so if you look back over school teachers when you were coming along in grammar school or high school, the ones you really respected were the ones who really invested in you and other people in the class.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't mean to preach, but
That sounds like making of a pretty good book.
I think it could be with some good editorial help, which I do have.
Well, we look forward to it. Merry Christmas.
Well, thank
you so much.
Same to you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. You bring my Christmas card?
Thank you. Oh,
Thank
Robert,
you, Jack.
thank you so much. That was delightful.
You were delightful. You were delightful.
No, I'm serious, really.